Now, when it's carnival season, it means it's also the start of crawfish season. Yum. And most of us have been dreaming of getting a sack of crawfish and a slew of friends for a good old time, but there is some things you need to know about this crawfish season. I felt like we should talk about this up front and in the beginning. And joining us is Dennis Riecke. He is a certified fisheries professional with the Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Park, but he used to work for the Louisiana Research and Experiment Station for a year and a half before coming here, so he knows all things crawfish. So welcome, Dennis.
Hello, how are you?
I am doing well, and I appreciate your time today. I have to tell on myself, I text our good friend Ricky Flint, who's with the Mississippi Department of Wildlife and Fisheries, and I said, who is over our crawfish department? And I bet he laughed out loud at me, and he said, sweetie, we don't have one here in Mississippi, but I know a guy who knows a thing or two about crawfish, and he sent me straight to you. So what is your background in the world of crawfish?
Well, I worked at the Rice Research Station in Louisiana and Crowley, Louisiana for about a year and a half before coming to Mississippi. And so I was an aquaculture research associate, and we farmed crawfish in conjunction with rice, different rice varieties, to determine which rice variety produced both a good rice crop and a good crawfish crop.
Very interesting. Well, Mississippi may not harvest crawfish or farm them, but we sure do like to eat them, especially from our sistering state of Louisiana. And I've been seeing all the posts, Dennis, about warning folks that they may be underwhelmed or discouraged by maybe what the supply looks like this year. And I know that's already got a lot of folks talking about the price of crawfish, the limited supply, and all the things. So what is affecting our ability to have good old crawfish bowls in our backyard like normal?
Supply and demand, and the supply is being impacted by the drought that we had last year. So the crawfish, when you take the water off of the rice field and harvest the rice, the crawfish have, and that happens in maybe September, August, late July, the crawfish have burrowed into the ground, okay? And they stay in their burrow. They burrow down to the water table, and they stay in their burrow until they sense that there's water over them again. And then they will dig out of the burrow, and then they'll be in the ponds, and, they'll be looking for food, and that's the harvest season. So typically, some people will float up in September, and they may be starting to have crawfish by November, or we flooded up in January, and we harvested 5 days a week from January through about mid-May. And then the water temperatures get too hot, and they burrow back into the ground again. So with the drought, the survival of the crawfish in the burrows has probably been poor, but the Atchafalaya Basin, the wild harvest, usually starts to come in March. That may be delayed this year because of colder water temperatures. And there may be some, less crawfish produced out of that, depending on what the water conditions were in the Atchafalaya Basin.
So there's no conspiracy of trying to keep our crawfish from us. It's just Mother Nature and how it all sort of plays together. Some years, like other things, crops are great or harvest is great. And other years, things sort of affect it and you just have a limited amount. Would that be fair to say, Dennis?
Yes, and with the limited amount, you're going to see higher prices that the farmers are going to get, and then the retailers or wholesalers are going to, have higher prices, and of course the retailers will too.
So right now, I know people are just really excited about something that they enjoy or to sort of think about spring weather. And I've noticed that, they're going quick when your local places get their crawfish sacks in to either cook for you or to sell for you. Will that level off some as we move more into spring, or is this just kind of going to be a sparse year? We just need to be patient and take what we can get?
Well, it all depends on the supply. But usually what happens is the price drops as you go through the season from January or November all the way into May, and so crawfish get cheaper.
which I think people will welcome. And then people are willing to pay for it, Dennis. I think maybe more than anything, folks are just willing to have less crawfish bowls on the calendar than maybe they normally would. But then also remember that many of the people selling it are small business owners, right, on the side of the road or however your connection sort of is here in Mississippi, and to sort of be patient and take that into consideration. How important is it, though, Dennis, that we still support those farmers, even if their product has to be a little higher this year?
Well, it's important because, some of them are strictly crawfish farmers and some of them are rice and crawfish farmers, but they depend upon that income from year to year, to pay their bills and their workers and to make a profit.
Because we want crawfish next year and the next and the next, and hopefully we can, get the supply sort of back up to normal amounts in that way. So, I'm ready for a good crawfish bowl, Dennis, but the weather needs to be a little bit warmer for me.
Yeah, and certainly the popularity of crawfish in Mississippi has increased over the past 20 or 30 years. You can just probably get them just about anywhere now, where that was not the case years ago.
So you came to Mississippi a couple of years ago. You're now a certified fisheries professional with the Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks. That's a big title, Dennis. I hope you have a big business card. Well, so what do you do with us now here in Mississippi?
Well, I manage about 7 projects, farm pond technical guidance, freshwater commercial fishing, a community lakes assistance program where we enter into agreements with cities and counties where we'll write a fisheries management plan and provide fish for stocking if they'll agree to do all the maintenance at those locations. In-stream flow, aquatic invasive species like silver carp, bighead carp, and some environmental coordination. So I have a bunch of projects and grant administration for invasive carp projects, so I spend a little time on those as needed.
Well, it sounds like a cool job. Does the weather and the drought affect, say, like our crappie and our bass or our catfish the same way it does the little crawfish?
So weather conditions during the crappie spawn, which is probably going to be from late March. It depends where you are in the state, but in like the northern reservoirs that we have, the peak is probably April the 15th. So if you have a lot of cold weather, the water has got to be a certain temperature and match up with the daylight period for crappie to spawn. And the best spawning conditions are stable or slowly rising water levels. If you have, that affects, the amount of shallow water you have available. So if you have a drought in the springtime, the water levels in those flood control reservoirs are reduced, and so you have a reduced spawning area.
Such interesting stuff. I got a crappie fisherman for a husband, Dennis, so I know that the reservoir was 36 degrees, the water temperature this morning, and it's not very good for crappie fishing right now, but they're really waiting for it to get a little warmer so they can get back out there and do what they sort of enjoy doing. But everything, there's for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, and it even comes with the weather and the great outdoors, correct?
That's correct.
All right. Well, I appreciate your time, Dennis. Hopefully everybody will simmer down with the crawfish and still support their local vendors and enjoy a good time.
Yes, that would be good.
All righty. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Jeff in Pontotoc said, crawfish are calling me by my full government name. Yes, I feel you, Jeff. Same here, too. I can't wait to get a sack full or two and a bunch of friends. But it has been a sticker shock for many of you who have gone out and maybe tried to go to your local restaurants or go ahead and get the party started with those early this year. And I think it's just going to be one of those years we got to be patient. We just kind of have to meet the farmer where they're at, recognize that it was out of their control, but still maybe you just reduce the number of parties you got, but just put it all in for one good one, and just sort of be realistic that, it's going to be a wavy sort of crawfish season for those that truly do enjoy it.